You hear me talk a lot about taxes because they're going to be a huge expense for you in retirement, which then leads us to talking about strategies like Roth conversions. And you might hear a lot or see a lot about Roth conversions because it's a strategy that could potentially save you big on long-term taxes in retirement. And yes, we do a lot of Roth conversions with our clients because sometimes they are a potential fit to help people reduce their taxes. But here's the truth that most people don't hear. Roth conversions aren't right for everyone. In fact, for some people, it could actually cost you more in taxes, not less. So on today's Max Retirement Show, I'm going to walk you through the 5 reasons that it might not make sense for you to do a Roth conversion. And the third one might surprise you, especially because it's a mistake that a lot of smart savers make. After that, and very fitting for today's show, we're going to look at the retirement chart of the week, which is the history of tax rates in the U.S. We're going to take a look at where they've been, where they could be headed. You see, tax rates are a key factor in Roth conversion decisions. And then we're going to wrap up with our listener question of the week about health savings accounts. Now, for those of you that are new to our show, my name's Scott Sierens. I'm a certified financial planner and owner of a retirement planning and investment management firm where our focus is to help people retire and maximize their retirement story. So Roth conversions are a commonly used tax strategy to potentially reduce your long-term tax burden. You see, you take money, you shift money from your IRA over to your Roth IRA. When you do so, you pay tax on the money that you shift over. Once it's in that Roth IRA, it grows tax-free. All of your withdrawals are tax-free. And the reason I say potentially is because for some people, it might not make sense to do the Roth conversion. So the first reason that you may not want to do a Roth conversion is if you think tax rates will go down in the future. Here's a look at our current tax brackets. And you have to take a look at these and say, okay, do you feel like these will stay the same, go up, or go down in the future? Now, for instance, if they're to go down, let's just say you feel like you would be in the 12% bracket throughout retirement. Well, if they're going to go down in the future, say they go down to 11%, you wouldn't want to pay 12% tax on your money today if they're going to be 11%, that you could pay 11% in the future. Now, of course, there's always new news about what Congress might be doing. And you have to remember, every so many years, there's new elected officials. So just because of what you hear in the news today might not be what's going to happen through the remainder of your life. And so they might make changes to taxes today, but guess what? 4 years from now, 8 years from now, they could make totally new changes to all of the tax brackets and tax rates. That's why we're going to take a look at the history of U.S. tax rates all the way back to the early 1900s. You're going to see years where the tax rates were lower than where they're at today, and you're going to see years where the tax rates were higher than where they're at today. So a few key things that are going into this is, where do you think tax rates will go in the future? Which tax bracket do you feel like you might sit in the future? You'll see that combining what we're talking about in this point here, along with what we're going to talk about a little bit later in point number 3, combining the two of those can really help you understand and come to a decision when it comes to Roth conversions. The second reason a Roth conversion might not make sense for you, even though it might look right on paper, is due to timing. And here's what I mean, and there's 2 parts to this. The first, when it comes to timing, is the 5-year rule. So from when you do the Roth conversion, you need to wait 5 years before you can touch the earnings. This assumes that you're over the age of 59 and a half. You need to wait 5 years before you can touch the earnings, tax and penalty free. So if you're going to need all of that money within 5 years, it kind of defeats the purpose. Now, here's the other thing that when it comes to timing is, what is your break-even age on that Roth conversion? Is it age 70, 80, 90? Basically, you're paying that tax up front. When are you going to have enough tax-free gains and tax-free withdrawals to break even on paying all of that tax up front? So what is that break-even age? Have you calculated that? Do you know what that is? So Based on that, does it still make sense for you to do the Roth conversion? The third reason is that your future income will be lower than where it is today. Let's just keep this one really simple. Where is your future income going to stack up in comparison to today's income? For example, today you've got wage income, you've got rental income, maybe interest, dividends, capital gains. In the future, you might have pensions, Social Security, interest, dividends, capital gains. Oh, and don't forget about those required minimum distributions or any sort of withdrawals that you're taking out of your IRAs and 401ks. And so when you look at that, when you stack them up, which one is going to be higher? Is it today or is it in the future? And then once you have that, whether it's up here or whether it's maybe down here, where does that translate into tax brackets? You see, we do this for every year of someone's life, and what it's called is a tax projection. And sometimes when we do these tax projections, we actually find that they'll have lower taxable income in retirement, which translates to a potentially lower tax bracket in their retirement. So, for example, let's just say over here, this is the 24%, they're in the 24% bracket, and over here, they're in the 12% bracket because of that income. Well, then why pay 24% today if your future income and future tax brackets will potentially be lower and you just pay 12% in the future? Now, for some people, when we do those projections, that's the case. For some other people, well, because of those required minimum distributions, they might see actually higher taxable income in their future than where they're at today. Another misconception is that because you have a lot of money, it might mean that your taxable income will be higher in the future because you have a lot of money. And sometimes, well, that doesn't really make total sense because maybe all of your money is in a brokerage account, or maybe it's evenly split between IRAs and Roth IRAs. You see, it is the required minimum distributions of the IRAs that really cause that future income to be higher, most of the times cause that future income to be higher than where it's at today. This is why a tax projection becomes so beneficial, because it looks at all of your future sources of income, including brokerage accounts, IRAs, Roth IRAs, and it gives you the full picture year by year by year of where your taxable income might be. Now, you might be feeling like, okay, I think tax rates will go up, there's longevity in my family, and I'm pretty sure my taxable income will be higher in the future, so does that mean a Roth conversion will be right for me? Well, maybe not. You're going to see with points 4 and 5 why it still might not make sense for you to do a Roth conversion. The fourth reason is legacy isn't a priority. You see, another big reason to potentially do Roth conversions is legacy planning. One is maybe paying the tax today at a known rate that you feel is going to be a lower rate than your kids or than your grandkids might pay. Or the other one is that you just are wanting to leave a legacy of tax-free money to your children, grandchildren, or family members. But it can be a really smart strategy, potential smart strategy, but what if you don't have kids? Or what if you don't have immediate family that you want to leave tax-free money to? Well, then you could essentially be paying the tax today if you did the Roth conversion, but then maybe never enjoying that tax-free money. The fifth reason is that you're already paying Medicare IRMA, or you're very close to it. IRMA is the increased premiums to your Medicare based on your income that you have coming in, and Roth conversions count towards income. And so if you're very close to an IRMA threshold, well, a Roth conversion could potentially bump you over it, therefore meaning your Medicare premiums will cost more in your future. Now, sometimes that extra cost is worth it, especially if it's going to potentially save you thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. But we've also had clients where the projection looks great, but emotionally, they just did not want to pay any more for Medicare than they absolutely had to. And that's okay. It's whatever's the right fit for you. There's a lot of noise out there about Roth conversions, and hopefully you can see it's not a one-size-fits-all strategy. If you're thinking about it, make sure that it's a real good fit for you by looking at all of your different income sources. What's your tax story going to be? What do you feel future tax rates will be compared to today's tax rates? We've helped a lot of people walk through this decision-making process, and sometimes the smartest move is not to do a Roth conversion at all. Now, if taxes are on your mind, you might want to download our free guide to unlocking hidden tax savings opportunities, and you can get that at maxretirementshow.com/taxes. As we had talked about earlier, two key factors in a Roth conversion is your taxable income today versus where it might be in the future, and tax rate. Which tax bracket not only will you sit in today or in the future, but where do you feel like those tax rates will go? And I thought this chart from Fidelity was very fitting for today's discussions. It's actually a look at the history of tax rates in the United States. Now, specifically the top income tax rates, but I think it'll get the point across of how much tax rates have changed throughout history. And if you think that today's highest tax rate at 37% is high, well, guess what? It's been higher and it's also been lower. Now, this goes all the way back to 1862, where there was a 5% tax, but let's just fast forward here to 1913, the first tax brackets that were set with the progressive tax rates, and went from 1% up to 7%. Pretty low when you're looking at today's tax rates that start at 10% going up to 37%. However, that fluctuated throughout the years, and you'll see the top income tax bracket went up to 67%, 73%. I'm going to fast forward a little bit here to World War II, where the top bracket was 80%, 94%, 91%. Now, again, that's the top tax bracket. As you can kind of see in their little chart here, there were variations within that. So that was just the tax on the top income paid. Now, there were also changes where things went lower, where the top income tax bracket was 28%. And then you fast forward to where we're at today, where it's 37%. And they're showing in here that if the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act expires, then it goes to 39.6%. Great chart. I'm going to link to it in the show notes so that you can take a look at it. But what's the point here? Well, the point is that tax rates could change. So no matter what you're hearing in the news today, and a new law might pass and we might have new tax rates for today, but hopefully it shows you that's just today. And over the years, the tax rates, the tax brackets can change. They could potentially be lower, they could potentially be higher. So you have to make some assumptions on where you think tax rates might go, especially when making your decisions on Roth conversions. So let's wrap up with our listener question from Mary about health savings accounts. Mary says, I've been maxing out contributions toward an HSA for the past few years. They mentioned I can invest these funds. Is that a good idea? I plan to use them for health costs in retirement. So Mary, great question. I find a lot of people don't recognize that they can do exactly the question that you're asking. But let's first off just break down a lot of the different things here in Mary's question. HSA. HSA stands for Health Savings Account. If you have a high deductible health plan at work, you can potentially make contributions to an HSA or health savings account. Why would you want to do that? Well, we call it the triple tax advantaged account. One, when you put money in, you get a tax deduction. The money can grow tax-free, and then as long as you use it for healthcare needs, you can use that money tax-free as well. So triple tax advantage. The other advantage when it comes to HSAs is that yes, you can invest the HSA, and I would highly recommend that you do invest your HSA to help get that tax-free growth for your future. And so, yes, you'd want to invest it, but the key part of investing it comes to what is your tolerance for risk with your HSA? When are you going to need to use it? And so how you invest it depends on how much risk you want to take, when you're going to need it, and when you're going to need to start taking money out. So based on that, you might be very growth oriented in your HSA, you might have a more balanced approach, or you might be more conservative. But whatever your tolerance for risk is, I still do recommend that you get your HSA invested, because that's how you're going to get the compounding effect on that tax-free growth to use that money for qualified health expenses for your future. I really hope that you've enjoyed today's Max Retirement Show. If so, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite channel so that way you get notified, because we're coming out with new videos each and every week on retirement topics as well as tax strategies to help out you and your future retirement.